Today's recipe calls for frozen raspberries. I'm going to show you how to make a very simple, easy raspberry curd. You can use this stuff for pretty much whatever you can imagine. It's very quick to throw together and it's super tasty. So with that said, let's get started.
The first thing we need to do so we can start this sweet, tasty curd is cube up some fat. Grab 1 stick of unsalted butter, which is 8 tablespoons or 113 grams of this stuff. Cut the butter into small to medium-sized cubes. It'll make more sense later on why we're doing it this way. Once you've changed the shape of your stick, toss it back into the fridge box for later. Grab yourself a small holding device. To that, we'll add in half a cup or 100 grams of granulated sugar. Following the sweet stuff, we need to add in the salty stuff. Drop in half a teaspoon sea salt or any type of fine-grained salt. The next thing we need to add to the bowl is the zest of 1 medium-sized lemon. It's best practice to zest the lemon over the bowl of sugar. The reason you want to do this is because when you zest the citrus fruit, it's going to shoot off a bunch of natural sugar crystals and natural oils that it holds. You also want to avoid zesting any of the white part of the lemon. It's known as the pith. This is bitter in taste, and we don't want any of that business. If you're using a microplane like I am, run your fingy down the backside to knock loose any zest that may be stuck. Now that all the yellow stuff is in the bowl, you need to beat the zest and sugar up together. The abrasive sugar grains will slightly break down the delicate zest, causing it to release more of the natural flavors it holds. Do this for a few minutes or until things become fragrant and the sugar starts to turn a pale yellow color. Once you're done playing with your food, acquire a small saucepan that has a heavy bottom to it. To the pansky, we'll add in 2 whole large eggs. It's best to crack the eggs in a separate container. It'll make it easier to fish out any shells that may be present. Following the 2 whole eggs, we need to also add the yolk from 2 large eggs as well. The simplest way to separate the yolk from the white is to crack the egg into a container, then scoop the yolk out of the white. You may have to pass the yolk back and forth in your hand to ensure you accomplish a good separation of the two. When you're done messing around with the eggs, give your mitts a thorough wash. Now that you have squeaky clean hands, dump the lemon sugar mixture into the pan of eggies. Whisk your face off to bring all the ingredients into one mixture. Do this whisking action until things are combined and smooth. The sugar will start to dissolve into the egg. Next, grab your naked lemon so we can juice that fruit. Roll the lemon on your work surface. This will help break up the membrane on the inside. This will give us a higher yield of juice. Strain and drain the lemon juice to catch any of the pulp and seeds. Add the sour liquid to the pan of stuff. The other liquid we need to add is 1 tablespoon of some vanilla extract. This stuff is optional, but will make the flavor profile of our curd more complex and delicious. Give it a light whisk to bring it all together. The last thing we need to add in is the main ingredient of the recipe, which is 11 ounces or 300 grams of frozen raspberries. Add about half of the frozen fruit, then using your whisk, crush and smash the fruit into the egg sugar mix. When things look pretty well mashed up, add the last half, repeating the same process as before. The goal is to ensure all the little raspberries are crushed/smashed. This way they will release all the flavor they hold, giving our raspberry curd its raspberry flavor. I know, I get it, it's a crazy concept. Science, I tell ya. Once that has been achieved, grab your pan and toss it over a heating element. Crank the hotness level to a medium-low temperature. Bring the curd up to a light simmer. We'll cook the goods for around 10 to 12 minutes or until it becomes thick in viscosity. During the cooking process, ensure you keep a close eye on it. You also need to continually stir it to prevent the bottom and sides from burning. Feel free to take a quick water break since you're working so hard. Make sure it's a quick one though. If you were wondering how or why the curd becomes thick, it's because we are slowly cooking the eggs, causing the curd to gradually thicken up over time. This is why it's imperative to keep a close eye on it, while also whisking it often, because we don't want to make raspberry-flavored scrambled eggs. Oh man, that gives me the heebie-jeebies thinking about what that would be like. Continue to cook the goods until it has thickened up. The curd may start to become bubbly. This would be a good time to keep whisking without getting burned. It's also a good indication that things are starting to become thick. The best way to tell it's done is to dip a spoon in the pan of goods. The curd should coat and stick to the shovel part of the spoon. Run your fingy down the backside of the eating shovel to part the raspberry curd sea. If the curd stays in place and does not come back together, you know it's done and ready to go. Take the pan off the heating source. Now that the pan is off the stovetop, we need to add the butter that we cubed up earlier to the curd. Drop in a couple pieces of the fat in at a time. We do not want to overcrowd the pan with the cold butter. When you drop in the golden cubes, vigorously whisk it in so that it completely melts into the curd. This is why we cube the butter into small pieces. This way it melts in faster and much easier. Ensure it's fully mixed in before you add the next set in. Repeat the same process until all the butter has been added in. The chilled butter will help cool things down. The last thing we need to do is strain the curd with a fine mesh strainer. Set the strainer over a medium-sized bowl to catch our sweet little treat. Using a whisk or a spatula, push the curd through the strainer. This will catch all the raspberry seeds, giving us an ultra smooth curd. It's best to do this in 2 sets. Once everything has been added to the strainer, scrape the saucepan clean to get all the goods out of the cooking vessel. After everything has been pushed through the strainer, using a clean rubber spat, wipe down the bottom of the strainer to get all the curd off. Once it's been cooled to the touch, cover the bowl of sweetness with some type of protective cover. When you're covering the curd, you want the plastic wrap to adhere to the surface. This way, the curd doesn't form a film, making a small crusty layer of stuff. Now that things are covered up, toss the bowl into the fridge box. We want to chill the curd for around 4 to 5 hours or up to overnight. We're looking to completely chill the goods so that it's cold and thick. I let mine chill overnight. Now that it's the next day, grab your favorite container. I'm using a glass mason jar. Add the curd to the jar for storage. You may have to use multiple vessels for this. Ensure you scrape the bowl clean. We do not want to waste any of this deliciousness. Pop the lids on the jar and toss that thing in the fridge until you're ready to use it on some pancakes, French toast, or even make some raspberry curd filled donuts. Donuts. Whatever you decide to do, just enjoy.
Alright, now that our raspberry curd is done, let's give it the old taste-a-roo. So looking at it, it came out super aesthetically pleasing. It's got that nice, bright, pinkish red hue to it. It also looks like it's going to be super smooth and creamy as well. Overall, it just looks really tasty, so let's give it a shot. The stuff is super dang tasty. It's nice and fresh and fruity. The raspberries also bring that distinct flavor that they hold. It also brings a little bit of tartness as well, but all the sugar that we added helps counterbalance against that tartness and makes it slightly sweet, but not overly sweet by any means. It's also nice and rich and fatty from the yolks and the butter that we added. The vanilla extract is nice and faint in the background and brings some flavor to the table as well. The lemon zest that we added really ties things together and really brightens up the curd and makes it that much better. Texture-wise, it's just super smooth and creamy, and overall, it's just really tasty. This recipe is super easy to knock out, and it's fairly customizable as well. Maybe double up on the lemon zest because you're a crazy lemon fan, or get rid of the vanilla extract and use some almond extract, which sounds super tasty as well. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna go figure out what to do with this stuff, and I have a few other things to do, so I'm gonna go do those, and we'll see you on the next one. Just a little bit. Get a different spoon, maybe. Nobody wants your drops. Shit, making a mess. Tartness as well. Raspberries, of course. Then they... And then I need to do a ton of other things.